This cannot be happening. Not today. Marcus Thornfield bellowed into his phone, his voice reverberating through the marble corridors of the 52nd floor of Thornfield Industries. The billionaire CEO's Italian leather shoes clicked frantically against the polished floors as he paced in his corner office, watching through floor-to-ceiling windows as 3 black Mercedes-Benz sedans pulled up to the building's entrance, each bearing the distinctive gold emblem of the Saudi royal family. "Sir, I've contacted every cultural consultant in the city," Sarah Chen, his executive assistant, said breathlessly, juggling 3 phones while simultaneously typing on her laptop. "The specialist we hired for the Saudi delegation canceled 15 minutes ago. His mother was rushed to the hospital with a heart attack." Marcus loosened his $3,000 Hermes tie, feeling beads of sweat forming on his forehead despite the perfectly controlled climate of his office. 25 years building Thornfield Industries from a small construction company into a global empire. And now it could all crumble because of a cultural misstep with Saudi royalty. Prince Khalid bin Rashid Al Mahmoud wasn't just any investor. He represented a consortium willing to inject $500 million into their Middle Eastern expansion project. The prince is known for his strict adherence to protocol, Victoria Sterling, the chief of operations, announced as she strode into the office, her red Louboutin heels clicking authoritatively. One wrong move, one cultural insensitivity, and we can kiss this deal goodbye. The Saudis have walked away from bigger deals for less. Welcome to the Black Side Stories. Before we continue, tell me in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today? And if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, subscribe to our channel and help us share their stories. Marcus ran his hands through his graying hair. The Saudi royal family's investment would not only secure Thornfield Industries' expansion into the Gulf region, but also establish them as the premier American construction company in the Middle East. The prince had specifically requested this meeting to discuss their proposed luxury hotel and commercial complex in Riyadh, a project that would cement their company's international reputation. "Oh, what about the cultural briefing documents?" Marcus asked desperately. "They're here," Sarah replied, holding up a thick folder. "But you know how the prince operates. He tests American executives' cultural knowledge and respect for Saudi customs. Without proper guidance, we're walking into a minefield." Victoria crossed her arms, her expression cold and calculating. "Well, we'll just have to wing it. How hard can it be to not offend a Saudi prince?" It was at that moment that a soft, respectful voice spoke from the corner of the office. "Excuse me, Mr. Thornfield, but I couldn't help overhearing. Are you meeting with Prince Khalid bin Rashid Al Mahmoud?" All eyes turned to Amara Washington, 29, who had paused her cleaning routine to listen to the conversation. She stood quietly by the window, holding a microfiber cloth in her hands, wearing the standard gray uniform of the building's maintenance staff. For 4 years, Amara had worked the executive floors, always professional, always discreet, always invisible to the powerful people who conducted their business around her. The silence that followed was so profound that the only sound was the gentle hum of the air purification system. Victoria was the first to react, letting out a derisive laugh. "Oh, this is rich. The cleaning lady thinks she can help with international diplomacy." Marcus studied Amara for a moment, his desperation making him consider any possibility. "You know who Prince Khalid is?" "I know of his reputation, yes, sir," Amara replied calmly, maintaining respectful eye contact. "Prince Khalid bin Rashid Al Mahmoud is the grandson of King Abdullah, educated at Oxford and Harvard Business School. He's known for his progressive views on international business, but maintains deep respect for traditional Saudi customs and protocols." Victoria's laugh became more pronounced. "Marcus, you cannot be serious. We have a $500 million deal hanging in the balance, and you're listening to someone who cleans toilets for a living." But there was something in Amara's posture, a quiet confidence and dignity that made Marcus pause. "How do you know so much about Saudi royalty?" "I studied Middle Eastern studies and international relations at Georgetown University," Amara replied, her voice steady despite the condescending stares. I also spent 2 years in Jordan with the Peace Corps, working on cultural exchange programs. I'm fluent in Arabic and familiar with Gulf business customs. The room fell silent again. Victoria's expression shifted from amusement to irritation. Georgetown? Peace Corps? And you're working as a janitor? A flash of old pain crossed Amara's eyes, but she maintained her composure. My father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 4 years ago. Someone needed to provide consistent care and handle the medical expenses. This job offered flexible hours and good health insurance. Marcus felt something stir in his chest. Respect for the quiet sacrifice this woman had made. You speak Arabic? Ana atakalam al-Arabiya fasaha wa lahajat al-Khalij. Amara replied, fluently, her pronunciation perfect. I speak both modern standard Arabic and Gulf dialect. Even Victoria seemed momentarily stunned by the fluency and natural rhythm of Amara's Arabic. Marcus, though he didn't understand the words, could sense the authenticity in her voice. What did you say? Sarah asked, her pen poised over her notepad. I said I speak Arabic fluently and understand Gulf dialects. Amara translated. It's important when dealing with Saudi businessmen to understand not just the language, but the cultural nuances behind their communication styles. Victoria recovered quickly, her voice sharp with disdain. This is absolutely ridiculous. What will Prince Khalid think when he sees that we've brought a black cleaning woman to discuss a $500 million investment? This could be the most insulting thing we could possibly do. At that moment, a memory flashed through Amara's mind like lightning. 3 months ago, she had been cleaning Victoria's office late one evening when she overheard a phone conversation. Victoria had been talking to someone about the need to maintain certain standards, and how having those types of people in visible positions during important meetings would send the wrong message to international clients. At the time, Amara had pretended not to hear, but the words had cut deep. Marcus looked at Amara intently. For 4 years, she had cleaned these offices, listened to countless conversations, absorbed more about international business than many of his executives. There was something in her eyes, a depth of knowledge and cultural understanding that his current team clearly lacked. You have 30 minutes to prepare yourself, Marcus finally said, ignoring Victoria's shocked expression. Find appropriate attire and meet me in the Al Salam conference room. As Amara hurried out to prepare, Victoria whispered furiously, You've completely lost your mind. When this backfires spectacularly, it will destroy not just this deal, but our entire reputation in the Middle East. But Marcus wasn't listening. For the first time in years, he was about to discover that the most valuable cultural ambassadors are sometimes the ones who go unnoticed, working quietly in the background while absorbing wisdom that could change everything. What none of them knew was that Amara had been preparing for this moment longer than anyone could have imagined, and Victoria, with all her corporate arrogance and prejudice, was about to learn that underestimating someone based on their job title and appearance could be the most expensive mistake of her career. 30 minutes later, when Amara entered the Al Salam conference room, the transformation was remarkable. She had changed from her maintenance uniform into a navy blue blazer and dress that she kept in her locker for special occasions. Simple, but dignified. Her hair was pulled back in a professional style, and she carried a leather portfolio that contained her own research on Middle Eastern business practices. Good God, muttered James Morrison, the CFO, not bothering to hide his surprise. Is that really the same person? Victoria didn't lower her voice when she commented to Sarah, You can dress up a janitor, but she's still just a janitor underneath. The Al Salam conference room had been specially prepared for the meeting. The table was set with traditional Arabic coffee service, dates, and other customary refreshments. The room's name itself, Al Salam meaning peace in Arabic, had been Amara's suggestion during her hurried preparation. Prince Khalid bin Rashid Al Mahmoud arrived precisely on time, accompanied by 4 advisors and his personal translator. The prince was an imposing figure, tall, dignified, wearing a perfectly tailored Western business suit with a traditional keffiyeh. His presence commanded immediate respect. Marcus made the formal introductions, carefully choosing his words. "Your Highness, this is Amara Washington, our Director of Middle Eastern Cultural Affairs," he said, deliberately elevating her title. Prince Khalid approached Amara with the measured steps of someone accustomed to formal protocol. When she greeted him in perfect Arabic, expressing honor at meeting him and invoking traditional blessings for his health and prosperity, his eyebrows raised in genuine surprise. "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Your Highness," Amara said, bowing her head respectfully. "It is an honor to welcome you to our company." "Wa alaykum assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh," the prince replied, his voice carrying a note of pleasant surprise. "Your Arabic is exceptional. Where did you study?" "I had the privilege of studying at Georgetown University and spent time in Jordan with cultural exchange programs," Amara replied in English, seamlessly switching languages. "I've always been fascinated by the rich cultural heritage of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia." For the first 20 minutes, the meeting flowed with unprecedented smoothness. Amara not only translated when necessary, but provided crucial cultural context that prevented several potential missteps. When Marcus was about to discuss business immediately, Amara gently guided the conversation toward appropriate social pleasantries that Saudi protocol demanded. She explained the significance of the dates being offered, the proper way to accept Arabic coffee, and the importance of inquiring about the prince's family's health before proceeding to business matters. Prince Khalid's advisor whispered something to him in Arabic, and Amara noticed the prince's pleased expression. That's when Victoria decided to assert herself. "Your Highness," she interrupted with a practiced smile, "I think it's important to be transparent about our team's backgrounds. We believe in giving everyone opportunities to grow within our organization." Marcus shot her a warning look, but Victoria continued undeterred. "It's quite remarkable, really. Amara here was working in our maintenance department just this morning. It's such an inspiring example of how we promote from within." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Amara felt the familiar weight of humiliation, the same feeling she had experienced countless times when people reduced her to her job title rather than recognizing her capabilities. Prince Khalid's expression shifted subtly, not with contempt, but with confusion about the cultural dynamics at play. "Your Highness," Amara said calmly, maintaining her dignity, "in Islam, there is great honor in all honest work. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that God loves a worker who perfects his craft, regardless of what that craft may be." Prince Khalid's eyes sharpened with interest. Not only had Amara deflected the slight with grace, but she had referenced Islamic teachings appropriately and respectfully. "Indeed," the prince replied thoughtfully. "The Quran teaches us that we should judge people by their character and actions, not by their worldly positions. Allah raises whom He wills and honors whom He chooses." Victoria's face flushed as she realized her attempt at sabotage had backfired spectacularly. In trying to diminish Amara, she had inadvertently revealed her own lack of cultural understanding and respect. As the meeting progressed, Amara demonstrated not just linguistic fluency, but deep cultural intelligence. When Prince Khalid mentioned his concern about American companies understanding the importance of Islamic business ethics, Amara was ready with thoughtful responses. "Your Highness, we understand that successful business in the kingdom requires more than just financial investment," she said respectfully. "It requires understanding concepts like mutual respect, long-term partnership, and conducting business in a manner that brings honor to all parties involved." The prince leaned forward, clearly engaged. "You speak of honor. This is not a concept many Western business people understand. In Arabic, we have the concept of karama, dignity and honor," Amara replied. "True business success comes not from taking advantage of others, but from creating partnerships that elevate everyone involved. This is why your grandfather, King Abdullah, may Allah have mercy on him, was so respected. He understood that true leadership means lifting others up." Prince Khalid's advisor whispered to him again, and this time the prince smiled genuinely. Your knowledge of our culture and values is impressive. Tell me, what do you know about our Vision 2030 initiative? For the next 15 minutes, Amara demonstrated comprehensive knowledge of Saudi Arabia's economic diversification plan, discussing everything from a NEOM city to the kingdom's push for women's participation in the workforce. She spoke knowledgeably about the challenges of modernization while maintaining cultural identity. Victoria watched in growing frustration as Amara commanded the room with quiet authority. The prince's attention was entirely focused on her, and his advisors were taking notes on her insights. "Your Highness," Victoria interjected again, "I hope you'll forgive our unconventional approach. We're still learning how to properly integrate our diverse workforce into high-level negotiations." The condescension in her voice was unmistakable. Prince Khalid's expression hardened slightly. In Saudi culture, treating any person with disrespect, especially in front of guests, was considered extremely poor form. "Mrs. Sterling," the prince said coolly, "in my country, we have a saying. The wise person learns from everyone, but the fool learns from no one. I am learning much from Miss Washington today." It was at that moment that something crystallized in Amara's mind. For 4 years, she had cleaned these offices while executives discussed strategies, negotiated deals, and made decisions that moved millions of dollars. She had absorbed every conversation, every cultural nuance, every mistake they made, especially Victoria's mistakes. She had seen Victoria's emails about maintaining company image by limiting the visibility of certain employees during international meetings. She had witnessed Victoria take credit for cultural insights that came from junior staff. She had observed Victoria's pattern of undermining anyone who might challenge her authority. But more importantly, Amara had used her time wisely. While cleaning offices late into the evening, she had continued her language studies, maintained correspondence with colleagues from her Peace Corps days, and stayed current on Middle Eastern politics and business developments. She had been preparing for an opportunity like this, even if she hadn't known when it would come. The meeting concluded with Prince Khalid expressing strong interest in moving forward with the project. But instead of addressing Marcus directly, he turned to Amara. "Miss Washington, I would like to invite you to visit the kingdom as our guest to see our development projects firsthand. Your cultural understanding would be invaluable in ensuring our partnership begins on the right foundation." Victoria's face went pale. A personal invitation from Saudi royalty was an extraordinary honor, one that could open doors throughout the Middle East. "Your Highness," Amara replied with appropriate humility, "I would be deeply honored to accept your invitation." As the Saudi delegation prepared to leave, Prince Khalid's advisor approached Marcus privately. His Highness was very impressed with Miss Washington's knowledge and respect for our culture. He asked me to tell you that in his experience, companies that recognize and elevate such talent are the ones that succeed in the long term. 2 hours after the successful meeting, Amara was back in her maintenance uniform. But something had fundamentally changed. She moved through the executive floors with new purpose, her mind processing everything she had observed and learned over the past 4 years. "Well, well," Victoria commented loudly as she passed Amara in the hallway, speaking to James Morrison. "I suppose our cleaning lady thinks she's an executive now. One meeting with a Saudi prince, and she probably thinks she deserves a corner office." Amara continued her work, but her movements were calculated now. Victoria had no idea that during her 4 years of cleaning offices, Amara had seen confidential documents left carelessly on desks, heard private phone conversations about questionable business practices, and witnessed firsthand how Victoria had systematically undermined employees she deemed unsuitable for the company's image. "The audacity is really something," Victoria continued, clearly performing for an audience. "I mean, what did she think would happen? That one successful meeting would change her entire life?" At that moment, Amara's phone buzzed with a text message in Arabic. It was from Prince Khalid's office, confirming her invitation to the kingdom and requesting her availability for a follow-up call to discuss cultural consulting opportunities. That evening, in her small apartment in Queens, Amara opened a file on her laptop that she had been carefully maintaining for 2 years. It wasn't out of malice, but out of necessity. She had learned that in corporate America, documentation was everything. The file contained evidence of Victoria's discriminatory practices, emails discussing the need to keep certain employees out of sight during important meetings, recordings of conversations about maintaining appropriate standards, and most damning of all, documentation of how Victoria had blocked promotions for qualified employees based on their appearance or background. 3 days later, Amara received a call that would change everything. Prince Khalid's office was offering her a position as cultural liaison for Saudi American business relations, with a salary that was 4 times what she earned at Thornfield Industries. But more importantly, they wanted her to start by conducting a comprehensive cultural assessment of American companies seeking to do business in the kingdom. Miss Washington, the prince's advisor explained, His Highness believes that companies that truly understand and respect our culture are the ones that make the best long-term partners. He would like you to evaluate potential partners and provide recommendations. Amara held the phone with steady hands. After 4 years of being invisible, one of the most influential business leaders in the Middle East was offering her not just a job, but a position of real authority and respect. The next morning, Marcus called an emergency meeting with the executive team. The Saudi deal had been formally approved, but there were conditions that needed to be discussed. Victoria entered the conference room with her usual confidence, wearing a black Armani suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. She had spent the weekend preparing talking points about managing the cultural aspects of the Saudi partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, I've received formal confirmation from Prince Khalid's office. They're moving forward with the $500 million investment. The room erupted in applause and congratulations. Victoria smiled smugly, already planning to take credit for the successful negotiation. However, Marcus continued, they have some specific requirements about how we handle cultural relations going forward. That's when Amara entered the room, no longer wearing her maintenance uniform, but dressed in a professional navy suit. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who had finally found her rightful place. I'm sorry I'm late, Amara said, calmly, taking a seat at the conference table. I was finishing up some important correspondence with Prince Khalid's office. Victoria's expression shifted from confusion to irritation. Marcus, what is she doing here? This is an executive meeting. She's here, Marcus replied firmly. Because Prince Khalid specifically requested that all future cultural matters be handled directly through her. Amara opened her laptop and connected it to the room's presentation system. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been asked to conduct a comprehensive review of our company's cultural competency and international relations practices. The first slide that appeared showed a detailed analysis of Thornfield Industries' past interactions with international clients, highlighting successes and failures in cultural understanding. As you can see, Amara continued, our company has lost several significant international contracts due to cultural misunderstandings and insensitive practices. Victoria tried to interrupt, but Amara continued with calm authority. Prince Khalid's office has made it clear that their continued investment depends on our ability to demonstrate genuine cultural respect and competency at all levels of our organization. The next slide showed specific examples of cultural missteps, including documented instances of discriminatory behavior that had cost the company potential deals. This is absurd, Victoria exploded, standing up abruptly. She's a janitor trying to play executive. What could she possibly know about international business? Mrs. Sterling, Amara said softly, I have documentation of several incidents where your personal biases have directly impacted our international business relationships. The room fell silent as Amara displayed email communications, recorded conversations, and testimonies from employees who had been marginalized or overlooked due to Victoria's discriminatory practices. This recording was made last month, Amara continued as Victoria's voice filled the room. We can't have these types of people representing our company to international clients. It sends the wrong message about our standards." Victoria's face went white. "That's taken out of context. You don't understand the pressure to maintain company image." "Company image," Amara replied calmly, "should be built on competence, integrity, and respect for all people, values that are fundamental to Islamic business ethics and appreciated by our Saudi partners." Marcus turned to Victoria, his expression stern. "Victoria, these allegations are serious. Not only do they represent potential legal violations, but they directly contradict the values that our Saudi partners hold dear." Victoria looked around the room desperately, but found no allies. Her discriminatory practices had finally caught up with her. "Your employment is terminated immediately," Marcus announced. "Security will escort you out." As Victoria was led away, she shot Amara one final look of pure hatred. "You may think you've won, but you're still just a janitor in a fancy suit." Amara met her gaze with quiet dignity. "I am exactly what I've always been. Someone who observes, learns, and acts with integrity. The only difference is that now I'm where I belong." 6 months later, Amara Washington sat in her new office on the 45th floor of Thornfield Industries, reviewing cultural assessment reports from companies across the Middle East. Her desk was covered with documents in Arabic and English, correspondence with Saudi officials, and invitations to speak at international business conferences. "Amara," Sarah Chen announced, now serving as her assistant, "Prince Khalid's office has confirmed your appointment to the Saudi American Business Council. They're particularly interested in your proposal for cultural training programs." Through her window, Amara could see the city she had once observed only as an invisible maintenance worker. Now, as Vice President of International Cultural Relations, she had become one of the most respected voices in Middle Eastern business affairs. Her annual salary of $250,000 had allowed her father to receive the best Alzheimer's care available, and she had been able to establish a scholarship fund for students from working-class families pursuing international relations studies. "What about the Harvard Business School invitation?" Sarah asked, consulting her busy schedule. "Confirmed," Amara replied, adjusting her hijab, a choice she had made after her deepening appreciation for Islamic culture. "They want me to speak about cultural intelligence in international business." Across town, Victoria Sterling sat in a cramped cubicle at a small consulting firm, reviewing basic marketing materials. Her discriminatory practices had made her radioactive in the international business community, and she had been forced to take a position at a fraction of her former salary. That morning, she had seen Amara's photo in the Wall Street Journal, standing beside Prince Khalid at the opening of a new cultural center, with the headline, "The Janitor Who Became a Bridge Between Cultures." Back at Thornfield Industries, Marcus called a company-wide meeting to announce their expansion into 3 new Middle Eastern markets, all facilitated by Amara's cultural expertise and the trust she had built with regional leaders. 6 months ago, Marcus told the assembled employees, "We nearly lost the biggest deal in our company's history due to cultural misunderstandings. Today, thanks to Amara Washington's leadership, we're not just succeeding in the Middle East, we're setting the standard for how American companies should engage with international partners." The audience applauded enthusiastically as Amara stood to address the crowd. "True success in international business," she said, "comes not from imposing our own cultural values, but from learning to see the world through our partners' eyes. When we respect others' cultures, we create partnerships that benefit everyone." That evening, Amara received a call from her father. Despite his Alzheimer's, he had moments of clarity, and today was one of them. "Amara, honey," he said, his voice weak but proud. "I saw you on the news today. You looked just like your mother would have. Strong, dignified, and making a difference in the world. I learned from the best dad." Amara replied, tears in her eyes. "You taught me that honest work is always honorable no matter what form it takes." 3 months later, Amara stood before the United Nations General Assembly, delivering a keynote address on cultural bridge building in international business, Prince Khalid sat in the front row, along with business leaders from around the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "I stand before you today not despite my background, but because of it. 4 years ago, I was invisible to most of the business world, a janitor cleaning offices while executives made deals worth millions. But invisibility taught me the most valuable lesson of all, that every person has something to offer, and every culture has wisdom to share." The audience was captivated as she continued, "When we judge people by their job titles rather than their character, when we dismiss others based on their appearance rather than their abilities, we don't just harm them, we impoverish ourselves. We lose access to perspectives, insights, and solutions that could transform our businesses and our world." In the audience, several executives who had previously overlooked talented employees began to reconsider their hiring and promotion practices. Amara's story had become a case study in business schools worldwide, demonstrating how cultural competency and respect for all people could drive extraordinary success. "The Saudi partnership that launched my career," Amara explained, "succeeded not because we imposed our values on them, but because we took the time to understand and respect their culture. This is the future of international business. Not conquest, but collaboration." After the speech, Prince Khalid approached her with a broad smile. "Miss Washington, or should I say Dr. Washington?" Amara had recently completed her PhD in international relations. "You have exceeded even my highest expectations. The cultural center you designed has become a model for Saudi-American cooperation." "Your Highness," Amara replied with gratitude, "you gave me the opportunity to show what I was capable of. That gift changed not just my life, but the lives of everyone I've been able to help since." Later that evening, at a reception hosted by the Saudi embassy, Amara was approached by a young black woman who introduced herself as a recent graduate in Middle Eastern Studies. "Dr. Washington," the woman said nervously, "I've been following your story. I'm about to start my first job at an international consulting firm, and I'm scared that people won't take me seriously because of how I look." Amara smiled warmly and took the young woman's hands. "Let me tell you something I learned while cleaning offices for 4 years. Your value isn't determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself and how you treat others. Study hard, work with integrity, and never forget that you're unique. Perspective is exactly what the world needs." 6 months later, that same young woman would send Amara a thank you note, along with news of her promotion to lead cultural analyst at her firm. Amara Washington's story proves that genuine talent, cultural intelligence, and unwavering dignity can overcome any prejudice or barrier. She transformed 4 years of invisibility into the greatest advantage of her career, showing that the most powerful people are often the ones working quietly in the background, observing, learning, and preparing for their moment to shine. Victoria Sterling tried to diminish her based on prejudice and job title, but ended up being the architect of her own professional destruction. Amara taught the business world that true leadership comes not from titles or corner offices, but from the ability to build bridges between cultures and see potential where others see only limitations. Her partnership with Prince Khalid opened doors not just for Thornfield Industries, but for dozens of American companies seeking to do business in the Middle East. The cultural training programs she developed became the industry standard, and her scholarship fund has helped over 200 students pursue careers in international relations. Most importantly, Amara proved that when we judge people by their character rather than their circumstances, when we value wisdom over wealth, and when we choose respect over prejudice, we create opportunities for extraordinary success that benefits everyone. Today, Dr. Amara Washington serves on the boards of 3 major international corporations, advises governments on cultural relations, and continues to be a bridge between cultures. Her story reminds us that in a world increasingly connected by global business, the most valuable currency isn't money. It's the ability to understand, respect, and learn from one another. Victoria Sterling learned too late that underestimating People based on their appearance or position can be the most expensive mistake a person can make. But Amara Washington proved that when talent meets opportunity, when preparation meets possibility, and when dignity meets respect, anything is possible. If this story of cultural bridge building and triumph over prejudice inspired you, remember that every person you meet has a story worth hearing, skills worth recognizing, and potential worth nurturing. The next time you encounter someone in a service position, in a job that society undervalues, or from a background different from your own, remember Amara Washington and consider that you might be looking at the next person who could change your world. This has been the Black Side Stories. Until next time, remember, behind every great achievement is someone who stood watch, someone who believed, someone who preserved what matters when no one else was looking.